Trump, Biden, Trump. That's all I hear anymore. I don't know about you, but I'm about tired of it. Listen, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about what happens if Trump becomes president and what happens if Biden becomes president. What does the future look like for us, the American people, and how can we work on doing some things right now proactively to make sure that we're in the best position possible regardless of who wins. What would it mean with regards to your taxes if Trump wins? What would it mean with regards to your taxes if Biden wins? You know, who knows the answers to all this stuff, but there's some things that we do know, and these are the things that we can be proactive about. So be sure to stick around here because by the end of this, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 ways to go about making this one of the biggest opportunities for yourself and making yourself spend less money on taxes and have your family spend less money on taxes going forward if you just get a little bit proactive. Now, as we approach the election, conversations around taxes intensify. Each candidate's tax proposals become a focal point, promising either relief or reform. The outcome will shape not just our finances, but the directions of our nation's economy for years to come. If Congress doesn't act, taxes will increase for the vast majority of U.S. households, said Howard Gleckman, senior fellow at the Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center. After the election, there's going to be a major tax debate with trillions of dollars on the table, said Chuck Marr, vice president for federal tax policy for the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. So what should you be doing? Well, what you should be doing is you should be getting proactive. Now, what do I mean by being proactive? What I mean is that the reality is things will change going forward regardless. And right now, today, taxes are on sale. And every single day of my life, I see people who haven't been taking advantage of this sale. And when they actually see what I can show them with regards to their own finances, they suddenly get on the horse and start riding in the right direction. Trump tax cuts are set to expire by the end of 2025. So the sooner you act, the more options you'll have to take advantage of today's lower taxes. Let's take a look at the facts. The TCJA. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I hate acronyms. So let me explain to you what that means. Tax Cuts Job Act brought major changes to the tax code for both businesses and individuals. Permanent tax cuts to corporate profits. The TCJA lowered the individual tax rates by restructuring the tax brackets entirely. They brought the standard deductions from $13,000 to $24,000. So what does this mean? This means that the average American no longer had to itemize. They no longer had to go through the complex process of figuring out what could they itemize here and itemize there to get their tax cuts because the standard deduction was so high it simply wasn't necessary. They doubled the lifetime gift and estate tax exemption from $5.6 million to $11.2 million. Now that's over $12 million at this point per individual. 2023 tax brackets. Well, if you look here, we have a tax system that's tiered. So on the left side of this, the single, and on the right side, the married, if you look down this chart, you can see that on the left side, $11,000 in taxable income is taxed at 10% for single and $22,000 for married. That would mean that first $11,000 for single, you'd pay $1,100 in taxes, and for the first $22,000, you would pay $2,200 in taxes on that bracket, and then it works its way up from there. Now, there's what's called a marginal tax bracket and an effective tax bracket. And all of your write-offs come from your marginal tax bracket. And your marginal tax bracket is the highest tax bracket that you're in. So for example, if you were married filing jointly and your taxable income was $350,000, that would put you in a 32% marginal tax bracket. Now, in that particular case, if you were able to make a contribution of $25,000 into a 401k, you're actually getting a 35% deduction because 350,000 plus 25,000 is 375. So that $11,000 above the $364,200 mark, that $11,000 got a tax break at 35%. Now, your effective rate is you take all of the taxes you paid and you divide it by your AGI, your adjusted gross income, and that will tell you what your effective rate is. That's a fast way of determining what your taxes are, but if you really, really want to know what your taxes are and where all your breaks are happening, you need to know what the marginal rate is. History of taxes. Now, would it surprise you to know that the highest income taxes have ever been in the United States has been 94%? This is since the inception of the temporary income tax and established on the IRS in 1913. The average out over that period of time has been 57.12%, and currently we're sitting at 37%. We're in some of the lowest tax brackets we've ever seen throughout history. Now, I don't know about you, but I hear all the time people say, well, history is no indication of the future. Well, I would tell you that when you forget history is when you're bound to repeat it, because there's another portion of this problem that's much, much bigger, and that's our national debt. Now, if you go out to usdebtclock.org, you will see that our current national debt is $34,648,819,545,306. And if we were watching this live, by the time I finish explaining this slide, it would be 820 million. And if you watched it long enough, it would go over that 820 and it would turn into $649 billion. Yes, it's going up that fast. Now, if you follow down below there, you can see that the national budget is actually only about $4.3 trillion. So the amount of money we bring in is about $4.3 trillion, but we spent $6.5 trillion, and that means we spent $1.8 trillion more than we actually brought in. Now, the number that's not on this slide is the $214 trillion in money that we owe for Social Security, Medicare, and prescription drugs in promises that we've made to pay, yet we don't have the money. This means we're approximately $250 trillion upside down with a $4.3 trillion budget. I don't know. What do you think? You think taxes are going to be lower, higher, or the same in the future? Now, the question you got to ask yourself is, most people believe that taxes will definitely never be lower, but most likely they will be higher in the future. And if you believe that they're going to be the same or they're going to be higher, then when do you want to pay your taxes? And the reality is when they're the lowest. For most people, that's right now today. Now, if you've currently just retired, you are now in the lowest tax bracket you'll ever be in your entire life. And in addition to that, if one of you dies, now suddenly, instead of filing jointly, you have to file single. And suddenly, immediately, your taxes go up. Or you're going along and everything's going really well, and then all of a sudden, this little thing called RMDs come along. And now suddenly, you're all mad because suddenly, your tax bracket goes up. And the reason why this happens to people is because they're very reactive. They don't sit down and create an actual plan. They're listening to the talking heads and they're listening to their brokers who don't know much about distribution and preservation. They know about how to build wealth. You see, you've been playing a game. You've been over here trying to accumulate as much money as you possibly can. So when you arrive in my world, you don't run out of money. That's your goal. You want to live the lifestyle you become accustomed to, adjusted for taxes and inflation out beyond yours and your spouse's life expectancy, and then pass your money on in the most tax-favored way possible. So as we discussed, where do you think tax rates are going in the future? Despite who wins the election. You see, it doesn't matter who the president of the United States is. As a matter of fact, we're not going to get into politics, but if you really want to change this, you've got to put term limits on Congress and Senate and take away these career positions and turn it back into a duty. But we're not going to go down that road. What we've got to do here is we've got to learn how does money work and what are the rules today. See, there's only 3 ways to grow your money. You can grow your money taxed as you go. This is your cash, your savings, your certificates of disappointment, bonds, anything that has a 1099 income. So you grow it throughout the end of the year, and then they send you a 1099. And you all think you're doing really wonderful because you're making 5, even as high as 5.5%, maybe even 6% on your certificates of disappointment. But you're forgetting that at the end of the year, you're going to get a 1099, and suddenly that's going to be taxed, and suddenly it wasn't such a great rate of return. Now, this has only happened in the last year and a half because prior to that, we had CD rates of 1%. Now, we have tax-deferred money. Tax-deferred money is what we call our qualified money. Our 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, defined benefit plans, anything that's tax-deferred. Now, in addition to that, any non-qualified annuities would be considered tax-deferred, but they're not qualified money. In addition to that, we have tax-free. Now, under tax-free, we have 529s, we have Roth IRAs, and then we have this little thing called Index Universal Life. And I understand that most of you probably don't understand what that means, but I'm going to explain it a little bit to you later on. Now, remember, a person with a little bit of information is a very dangerous person, so you want to get a lot more information about that before you head off in that direction. So, what can you do before the Tax Cut and Jobs Act provision sunset in the year 2025, which means in 2026, your rates are going to go up? So what are the options that you have? So let me give you a couple of solutions here really quick. Once again, remember, a person with a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous person. Here are 3 actions to take. 1, convert to traditional IRAs over to Roth IRAs. Now, what does that mean? That means we're going to take our qualified money and we're going to convert it into a Roth IRA. Now, our IRA is tax-deferred money. We put that money in before we paid taxes on it. Basically, the government gave us a loan, and they're going to want that loan back. And when you reach your RMD age, required minimum distribution age, you're going to have to start paying it back. And you're going to have to pay it back at whatever rates you're at that time. So if you could get that out today at a much lower rate than what you're going to be paying later on, wouldn't you want to do that? You see, I know most of you think that you have $1 million in your 401k. But have you ever seen your after-tax statement? Because the reality is it looks just like that. Because this portion belongs to the government, and believe me, they're going to get their portion. So do you have a relationship with someone in the government where you're dying to give them your money rather than keep it for yourself or your family? And if the answer to that is no, which it should be, then it's probably time for you to start getting proactive and start working on getting this money over into a Roth IRA. Now, you know how you eat an elephant? Well, the answer is 1 bite at a time. So what is qualified money? So qualified money is tax deferred. Exceptions to that would be a Roth IRA. It grows tax-free, but it's still considered qualified money. IRAs, SEPs, 401ks, 401as, 403bs, 457, defined benefit plans. These are qualified account. Qualified with who? Qualified with the government. Why? Because once again, you have a business partner. There's penalties for distribution prior to 59.5. There are some exceptions to that rule. You must start distribution on RMDs by 73 or 75, depending upon what your age. The exception to that rule would be Roth IRAs and ERISA plans when you're still working. Now, what is an ERISA plan? ERISA plan is a 401k, a 403b, a 457. So if you're still working and you have a company plan, you do not have to take RMDs, but the day you stop working, now you'll have to take RMDs out of there. Now, I'm not going to give you a class on RMDs today. I have separate videos with regards to that matter, but how you take your RMDs is very important, and there's specific rules on how you take it from one account or another. Non-qualified money is taxed as you earn, not a government plan. Some exceptions, taxed as you go, bonds, etc. CD, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, etc. Now, one other exception would be is you can have a non-qualified annuity. So you could put after-tax money inside of an annuity, and now it becomes tax deferred, and you don't pay taxes on it till you take it out. Now, for those of you that have hundreds of thousands of dollars parked away in certificates of disappointment just because you're trying to be safe and get a decent rate of return, there really is a better option in many cases to use annuities out there, which not only have higher rates, but defer the taxes, which open up the door for you to have an opportunity to get more of your money out of your IRAs and over into Roth IRAs. Long story, but we'll sit down and we'll explain it to you. Now, what are the benefits of a Roth IRA? Well, Roth IRAs grow tax-free. There are no RMDs, no required minimum distributions at this point in time on them. If you're over 73 and you're still working, you can still contribute into a Roth IRA. Where with an IRA, you're over 73 or at your RMD age, you must be distributing, not contributing. Roth conversions cannot be reversed. It used to be until the Secure Act that you could do what was called a recharacterization. If you did a Roth IRA before 12/31 of the year that you're doing it in, you had all the way up until October 15th of the following year to put it back. Well, that law has been repealed, and now when you do a Roth IRA, you're stuck with what you're doing, so you need to have a plan on how you're going to do that. Roth IRA funds pass on tax-free to beneficiaries, and in addition to that, the beneficiaries can stretch them over a 10-year period of time. So it must be distributed 100% within 10 years, which gives them 10 more years of growing that tax-free. No taxation on distribution at trust tax rates. It removes the uncertainty of what future tax rates might be. So I ask you again, when do you want to pay the taxes? I know, never. But here's the reality. You're going to pay the taxes because this is not your $1 million. This portion belongs to the government and they want their portion. You know, if I was going to write you a check right now, I was going to loan you some money, and I said, look, here's $100,000, you'd want to know two things. You'd want to know, when do I have to pay it back, and at what rate do I have to pay it back at? Now, if I told you that I didn't really need this money, I'll let you know when you have to pay me back. And I told you that because interest rates suck right now, when it comes time to pay me back, I'll let you know what the interest rate's going to be. Would you borrow my money? Well, I would bet that there's no way you would borrow my money on those terms. Yet this check that I'm offering you right here is exactly what your qualified money is. You've put it in an account where you don't know when you have to pay it back because they get to change the rules, which they do and they have and they will. And you've put it in an account where you don't know what the rate's going to be when it comes time to pay it back. Because to see the rate's going to be based on tax rates, and can they change that? They certainly can. Here's an interesting question for you. Do they have to raise rates to raise taxes? And the answer is no. All they have to do is change the rules. And if they change the rules, suddenly you end up paying more taxes even though they didn't change the rates. Think about that for a second. So are you willing to keep going to find out if they're going to change the rules? So who should convert? Well, anyone that has a traditional IRA should certainly be considering this thought and be looking at it proactively and be sitting down and getting a very strong plan and looking at what their future holds with regards to taxes. And if those tax rates are going to be, their tax bracket's going to be the same or higher, then very good chance they should be doing it. Oh, I know. They told you should put money in a tax-deferred account because you're going to grow on money you would have otherwise paid in taxes. And in the end, you're going to have more money because you're going to be in a lower tax bracket. Well, I don't know. Is that true? For most of you, it's probably not true. Beneficiaries of an IRA is a trust. So if you're a beneficiary of your IRA as a trust, then there's about a 100% chance that you should be doing a Roth conversion, and you should be doing it now. Wealthy people who don't need, want, or likely will not use their required minimum distributions or distributions in their lifetime. they should probably be doing Roth conversions because their plan is to pass the money on to their children. And see, when they pass that IRA on to their children, you just basically saying, look, honey, here you go. Here's $1 million. Hey, don't worry about the bomb. Okay? Yeah, the bomb. And the reality is that even though your kids might be in a lower tax bracket today, when they inherit this IRA, now they have to distribute it 100% within 10 years, and suddenly they're in a higher tax bracket, and frequently a higher tax bracket than you would have been in when you could have paid it. You believe that you'll be in the same or higher tax bracket in the distribution years, then you should be doing a Roth conversion. You have access to outside funds, non-qualified to pay the taxes with. Now, that's not a necessity, but that sure makes it a lot better because now we can get money out of that taxed as we go account over into tax-free where we could never do that before. How will the tax work? Well, IRAs converted in 2024. The taxes are due on April 15th of 2025. Now, you got to be a little bit careful because you might have an estimated tax thing. This is something that you need to be working out with your accountant as you go along. But having a plan before you go talk to your accountant is a way better way to do it. IRAs converted 2025, taxes due April 15th, 2026. It's important to know that taxes will likely go up and the income may have an effect on Social Security, AMT, and all other incomes, as well as your Medicare. Partial conversions. Now, remember I said, how do you eat an elephant? Well, the answer is one bite at a time. And most of you own an elephant. That's your qualified account. You see, you're not required to convert the entire amount of your IRA. You can convert it in small amounts over a several year period of time. Now, in addition to that, you don't have to sell what you have. So if you have your money in, I don't know, Apple stock as an example in your IRA, you could literally take it in an Apple stock and move it from an IRA over to a Roth IRA and pay the taxes with outside money, not having to sell that stock. Can you see the importance of why you really want to sit down and get a good, solid plan on how you're going to do this? Note, this is as of today. They may change the rules. Action number 2. You can go out and you can grow your money tax-free with properly structured and maximum funded IULs. IUL stands for Index Universal Life Policies. Now, if I had a bunch of you standing here in the room, I would ask you this question. Do you own any life insurance? And a bunch of hands would go up and I would say, oh, when do you get paid? And you would say, well, I don't get paid, my heirs do. See, that's not life insurance, that's death insurance. See, there are 3 ways to build a life insurance policy or a death insurance policy. The first way is you minimum fund it. The second way is you overfund it. And the third way is you maximum fund it. A minimum funded policy is a term life insurance policy. Now, insurance companies love this stuff, so keep buying it because only 2% will ever be paid out because the policy will lapse before they ever get to that point. An overfunded policy is what's called permanent life insurance. It could be whole life, variable life, universal life. It could be a whole array of things, but you're overfunding the policy so that it builds up a cash value so that later on, as the cost of insurance goes up, the money's there to pay for that. So you're guaranteed to have money when you reach the time when it goes up so that your policy is guaranteed to be there when you die. So an IUL, an Index Universal Life Policy, unlike traditional life insurance policy, an IUL policy, you have to allocate a portion of your premiums to a savings account, which is invested in a variety of market indexes that you choose out of the indexes, such as the S&P 500. The policy cash value grows based on the performance of these indexes, subject to certain caps, floors, spreads, and participation rates set by the insurance company. Now, once you understand this and you really get this, basically what it says is you're able to get some of the gains of the stock market and not participate in the losses. So what that means is in a year like 2000, 2001, 2002, 2008, when the market goes down, you go sideways. How would you like to make 0 in the year 2008? How about 2022? Would have been pretty cool, huh? The indexes perform well, the cash value can grow significantly. If they perform poorly, the policy guarantees that your cash value will never lose money set by a floor of 0. Now, there is still cost in the policy, and you need to understand what costs are, and you need to understand the bad sides of this. Do not just run out and start trying to build yourself a maximum funded life insurance policy. You need a plan, and you need to know exactly what you're doing, what the bads are, and how you go about doing this. So how does an IUL compare to, let's say, a Roth? Well, a Roth is a phenomenal tool, and most people should have one, and most people should be converting to one. But let's say we get to the point where we've converted all the money that we have into a Roth IRA, and we can only contribute a small amount, yet we have more money we'd like to put away or move out of our tax-as-we-go environment over into a tax-free environment. Well, that would be an IUL, or a maximum funded life insurance policy. Now, in a Roth IRA, your money accumulates tax-free, and you can withdraw your principal at any time. However, you cannot put back any more than what you're allowed to put in the Roth IRA, and there are restrictions on contributing to a Roth IRA based on your income. Now, when I go over here and I build a maximum funded life insurance policy, it accumulates tax-free. I can withdraw my money anytime through one way, doing a withdrawal and or doing a loan, which allows me to leverage my money. But here's the cool part. I can put it back anytime I want. Remember I told you there was a 529? Well, 529 is an educational account for your kids for college. An IUL is a much, much better way to do that than a 529. And when we sit down and talk, I'll give you a dozen reasons why that is. You can deposit larger sums of money into an IUL. As a matter of fact, there's very little limit on how much money you can put in an IUL. It's really based on your net worth, your income, and your age. You can access the money and it's more liquid. It indexes, it never loses when the market goes down. Now, we could do that with a Roth IRA. We could take a Roth IRA and we could put it in an indexed annuity, and we could get some of the gains of the market and not participate in losses. Not so much of the gains of the market, but still not participate in losses and get a whole bunch of other benefits. When you die, the value increases and transfers tax-free to your heirs. So in other words, if we're over here and we've got $200,000 in cash value inside of our life insurance policy, we may have a death benefit of $300, $500, $600, even as much as $1 million inside of there for our heirs, which is a lot more than what our cash value is going to be. However, don't get me wrong, Roth IRA is still a very good tool, and if you can maximize that, it's something you want to do. Now, here's how an index works. Can you see the S&P 500? This was from the year 2000 forward to 2017. And you can see where those arrows were. Just prior to those arrows, the market went down. So in 2000, 2001, 2002, the market went down. We went sideways. In 2008, the market went down. We went sideways. The rest of the time, we participated in the growth of the market. You can see that investing in the market back in 2000, the same amount of money, and investing the same amount of money in an IUL over that period of time, our value, our cash value of the policy, $352, $271, as opposed to $181. I don't know. Is this something you want to do? So my question for you is, if you could grow your money tax-free, access up to 85% at any time tax-free, put it back if you want, get most of the gains of the market, never participate in losses, and when you die to pass on 2 to 3 times that amount tax-free, would you want to do that? Well, of course you would. Now, this guy here, Warren Buffett, his number 1 rule is never lose money. And his number 2 rule is don't forget his number 1 rule. You see, we believe that it's more important to avoid the losses than to pick the winners. I would take a much lower rate of return than the market provides if I could get a 0 when the market goes down. I don't know about you. Maybe you want to go ink out a few more percentage points on those gains and take all those losses. But if you look at that roller coaster ride, I think most of you like to get off of it. So how does this work? Well, a maximum funded life insurance policy is based on the IRS laws. And 101A, 101C, 7702, 72E of the tax code determines how you build a life insurance policy. It determines what's the minimum amount of insurance you have to buy and the maximum amount of money you can put in the policy over a period of time and how fast you can put it in. And if you understand these rules and you follow these rules, there's not much that beats this stuff. The single biggest benefit in the tax code is the tax exemption for life insurance. Mr. Ed Slott, American's IRA expert. Now, I was a master lead advisor for Ed Slott for more than 9 years. And what I could tell you about Ed is Ed's an incredibly smart guy. He was an accountant, pretty funny guy. He calls himself a recovering accountant. And he would tell you, just as I'm telling you, that one of the best retirement tools there is a maximum fund, properly maximum funded life insurance policy. So I told you there would be 3 actions here. So the third action is, and I also told you, if you stayed to this part, I would tell you, give you a little gift here. Because you're to be rewarded for sitting here and putting up and listening to me for this amount of time. So here's my gift for you. I will give you a no cost, no obligation strategy session with me, and I will provide you with more clarity about your retirement than you've ever had in your entire life. I will show you what's going to happen, whether you're going to run out of money in your lifetime, whether you're going to have enough money to live on based on static and or market returns, what your tax rate bracket will look like going forward, and whether or not you should be doing Roth conversions, and then if you should be doing them, how you could go about doing that in the most tax-favored way possible. I'll show you how to live the lifestyle you become accustomed to, adjusted for taxes and inflation out beyond your and your spouse's life expectancy, and then pass your money on in the most tax-favored way possible. I've been a wealth advisor for over 20 years. And as I told you, I was a master lead advisor for Ed Slott. I'm top of the table for MDRD, ex-Marine, no such thing. I'm a Rotarian, I'm a father of 2, and my expertise lies in retirement and estate planning. You've been playing a game, and the game you've been playing is accumulation. And you've been trying to accumulate enough money so that when you arrive in my world, you don't run out of money. Trust me when I tell you this. The game is played differently when you get to preservation and distribution. If you play this game wrong over here, it's a real problem. So take the time now. Go out here to our website at www.yoursafemoneypeople.com or scan this code right here and set up your no obligation, no sales, leave your checkbook at home, and I will put together a report for you that would cost you anywhere from $500 to $5,000 to get done anywhere else with no pressure sales. All I ask you to do is take the time to learn. Now, congratulations on taking your time to learn here today. And remember, live like you're going to die tomorrow and plan like you're going to live forever, because you just might. Be sure to put some comments in the section down below down here and tell us how you feel about what I just told you. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I look forward to meeting every one of you in the not too distant future. Keep smiling and make it a great day.